In this video, you'll learn how to deal with the complexity of life, both personally and at work, in a way that can significantly improve your chances of your messages, your hopes of getting through to your audience. Hi, my name's Scott McArthur, producer of the Edge of Next vlog, where I give tips, tools and thought processes that can help you get to the best possible future of work and hopefully provide a return on humanity for your business. So in this video I'm going to give you something of a comms tip. You may have noticed about 4 or 5 days ago the British artist Banksy was all over the media once again. And what Banksy had done was he'd gone into the London Underground system and he'd sprayed little rats, which represent the virus, all over one of the carriages, and had shown, as I demonstrate here, how if you're not wearing a mask, how you're breathing out or sneezing spreads the virus all over the tube. Now, these drawings and paintings had a huge impact, and there's a reason for that I think we can all learn something from. The reason that art is powerful in these circumstances is that it cuts through things like culture. It cuts through the noise that we normally associate with words. So just to give you an example, if I ask you all to think about Big Ben, in your head right now, the pedants would be thinking, oh, it's the bell, but everyone else would be thinking in their head, there it is, there's the tower, there's Big Ben, the clock tower in London. You'd all pretty much think of the same thing. If I asked you all to think about a bicycle, things would get a little bit messy, but you would all basically come up with the idea of a bicycle. But if I start to talk to you about things that are a little bit more complex, like the spreading of disease, or words like strategy or meaning, everybody has their own interpretation of those words. And when you have everyone seeing things differently, that's when you get misunderstandings. So why is it that these images work? Well, the first thing, as I said earlier, it cuts down on the noise, but the second thing is it can work across cultures. So no matter where you're from, if you're sitting in one of those tubes, seeing one of those pictures of a rat sneezing across a window, you get what it means. Recently, in fact, the RSA has become quite well known for its RSA Animate series, where they've been taking books and ideas and making cartoons that really get across the key points in those particular ideas or books. One of the roles I've had over the last few years has been working with organisations who are dealing with complexity, and it's really difficult. Anyone who's been involved in a change programme or a digital transformation programme, you know how difficult it is even to get the simple things across. So what can we learn from Banksy's experience? Well, for a number of years there's been a group of artists working in this place. They call themselves strategic artists. Now, these are not these are not simply artists, and I wish I was an artist, so I'm certainly not having a go at artists there. These are people who I like to call sensemakers. They can see patterns, they can see images that will suit that pattern and help you communicate what you're trying to say to your audience. Now, I've come across a number of different people in this space, and I'm going to mention some names because I think they're pretty special and quite a rare breed. Sometimes the complexity I've been having to deal with or help my clients with have been organisation wide. Now, this is very difficult, and if you ever try to write a change plan or a transformation plan, you'll know just how complex it is and how difficult it is to get everybody to really see where you're trying to take that organisation. So many years ago I was working with one of the leading brands on the high street, and I was introduced to a chap called Steve Whitler. Now, Steve came into the business and helped us create this picture that really demonstrated what the image of what the business was like before the program and what it was like after the program. Now, to make this image, we went around the organisation, we interviewed hundreds of people from all different levels in the business, and we asked them what it was like to work in that business and what would they like to see happen in that business to make their employee experience a better one. This image became very famous in the organisation, and if you see there's a brick wall in the middle, right in the middle of the image here, what that was, it was deliberately left blank, so when we toured this around the business, people could put post-its or comments on the wall that we could then embed into the organisation later on. Now, the one thing that I really noticed when I took these things round these thousands of people and talked to them about the picture and what the company was hoping to do as part of that transformation program was people who, I guess you would call them naysayers, or people who just weren't interested in the organisation or taking it in any particular direction, people who were maybe protective of their jobs, people who were maybe scared of the proposed change. They were the ones that it really grabbed, because they would go up to the image and go, where am I in that picture? If you've got them asking you that question, you've got them. They're starting to engage in what you're trying to achieve and co-create to change that organisation. In this context, if you've got a really complicated system you're looking at, or a complex organisation, supply chain, you can start in very few better places than Steve's new book that talks about visualising transformation in organisations. Steve is a detail person, and he is very, very careful in terms of how he coaches people through the process of creating an image or a map that summarises the organisation's structure or the process under consideration. Highly recommend that to you. Now, the second way I've used these artists and sense makers is actually to help me in my business. So for example, I speak a lot and I see a lot of the same images out there being used on the keynote stage. So I thought, can I take that experience from the corporate world and take it into my speaking business? So that's what I did. Now, my background is as a scientist and I did biological research, so I teamed up with somebody who had a background in that area, who really understood the sorts of images that I would like to create for my audience. Got a couple here. Now, these are both to do with some of the things I speak about. Now, this one here is about complexity in the workplace in relation to technology and how it feels to be overwhelmed by technology. Another one here created by another artist called Julian Burton. This is one where we were trying to get across that one of the key things I try my best to help with is the difference between truth and propaganda. These are business cards. That also gives me a bit of a USP when I'm going out into the marketplace. So again, it gives you an edge. It gives you a way of doing things differently that perhaps your competitors aren't doing. The chap who helped me with the medical type drawings also helped me with this one here. This was done by a fellow called David Gifford. And what we were doing here was we were preparing a piece for a TEDx talk that I did. And we created an animal called a chronophage who gobbles up your time. The social media is gobbling up your time. And you can see here in the chronophage, that's what we demonstrate in that picture. People remember that image. People remember me on that stage. And that helped me achieve that. The third and final type is where I've worked with artists who are deep sense makers. And my favourite artist I work with in this space is a chap called Julian Burton. Now, what I'll do with Julian is I will sit down and I will describe to him something that I'm maybe struggling with, something I don't understand, or something that I really need help with. Julian will very gently take you through the steps of forming an image that will really get to the bottom of what you're trying to do. It's almost like it is a type of virtual visual coaching. It's almost like a mentoring process. It's deeply powerful. It can be very cathartic when you see an outcome. It can be messy. They're not as polished sometimes as other images because it's in the moment and you're trying to create something together that really helps you focus and then take something to the next level. So there you have it. Using artists to help you summarise, explain, describe and communicate complexity can be the answer to something that is so precious in the workplace and in your life. And the answer to the question is, how do you explain yourself so everyone in the room is on the same page? Thanks very much for subscribing to the Edge of Next podcast. And if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, hit the little bell and you get notification of my next video, and I promise it's coming out really soon.